this tutorial, we will discuss using the Data Import Wizard. If you have data that exists external to the Hive in either an external database or in most cases a spreadsheet of some sort, the Data Import Wizard can be used to quickly import several structures as well as associated inspection data and display those results on the map. In order to navigate to the Data Import Wizard, use the left menu and select in the navigation bar Data Import Wizard. This is the Data Import Wizard page. The overall data import process can be thought of in three parts. First is to ensure that your external data is laid out properly, or in other words, staged properly. Second is to use the Data Import Wizard to actually import the data. And third is to monitor the data import process through the dashboard. This is the external data that we will import into the Hive database during this tutorial. As mentioned, we must make sure that this data is staged properly. The first thing to consider when staging your data properly is to make sure that the worksheet that contains the data is the first worksheet in the workbook. As you can see in the lower left hand corner, we have two worksheets. The worksheet that contains our data is titled Import, and it is the first worksheet in the workbook. Preferably you would only have one worksheet, but if you do have more than one, again, make sure that the worksheet that contains your data to be imported is the first worksheet in the workbook. The next thing to consider when importing and staging your data, you must make sure that the first row of your worksheet to be imported has column titles. These titles will be later used in the import process in order to map the data from the worksheet to the correct fields and locations in the Hive database. In order to import structures and inspections into the Hive database, you must make sure that you have the minimum structure information required. The minimum structure information required is a structure name. As you can see, we have three structures here, and each one has a unique name. You must have a latitude and longitude for each structure to be imported, and it should be formatted in degrees, decimal degrees, as shown here. And each structure must have a structure type. The key thing about the structure type is these structure types must match what is predefined in for your particular company in the Hive database. To see what you have or what structure types you have predefined in your Hive database, go to the map view, go to the right menu, go to the options tab, and you'll see structure type options, and all of the structure type options that you have will be listed over on the right side. The key thing to remember is what's listed in your external data to be imported must match both a capitalization as well as spelling as for what is listed here, and these are the only options for your structure types to be imported. If you need additional structure types, you can talk to your company admin and they can create or add additional structure types for you to better match the data that you're looking to import. If inspection data is going to be imported as well, then you must have the minimum inspection information required. The minimum inspection information required is an inspection date, as we have listed here, and a structure status. Just like the structure type, the structure status must be predefined and match what is predefined in your for your particular company. As you can see, we have three different structure statuses here: minor concern, an OK, and a major concern, and each one of these matches at least one of the ones that's defined over on our options tab here. Again, OK, minor concern, major concern, and then non-inspected is another option that we have. But in our data that we're importing, we're only using those three. Often worksheets will contain additional columns that are above and beyond the minimum data required to create structures and inspections. If you decide you would like to have that information that is above and beyond the structure and inspection data, you need to ensure that there is a destination in the Hive database for this information. In this particular worksheet, we have two columns that contain unique ID here in column A and batch number here in column H. If we decided we wanted to save these numbers into the Hive database, then prior to commencing our data import process, we will make sure that there is a column defined using the column management for this information to be stored to. Creating columns in the HIVE database is above and beyond this tutorial and is covered in a separate tutorial under column management, but just know that overall you need a destination for the information, whatever information in your external worksheet that you would like to save. The final thing to consider in regards to staging your data is to make sure that your data is cleaned. By that we mean to make sure that there are no hidden rows or hidden cells in your data. Once we have our data properly staged, we can begin the data import process. The data import process is basically a four-step process, and if you look at the top of the page, they are laid out here. So the first step is to upload the files. Once we've located our file that we decided to upload, we'll click the Start Upload button. Select Next. Step 2 is the mapping the fields section. One of the requirements for staging the data is to make sure that columns, that your first row had column titles. Those column titles will be listed here underneath the source column from the Excel. As a review, here we have unique ID, name, latitude, longitude, structure type, inspection date, status, and batch number. And you'll see that those match these columns in our source column. Also discussed previously is that for every column that we have that we would like to save, we need to have a matching column defined into HIVE. All matching columns and their options will be listed underneath the target column. So mapping the fields, we know that unique ID, we do not want to save that, so we will click. Right now it's pointing to the grid location, but we'll click here and select Do Not Save and click Apply. Now we'll just make sure that for every column that we want to save, we have a corresponding and accurate location. So name matches structure name, lat D is where our latitude information in our source document is located. It is pointing to and mapped to our latitude in our HIVE database. Longitude is pointing to our longitude location. Structure type is pointing to structure name. That is not correct, so we'll select Find Type and click Apply. Inspection date is pointing to inspection date. Status is pointing to status, and batch number right now is pointing to structure name. We do not want to save batch number, so we'll select Don't Save and click Apply. And once we've reviewed or mapped all of our columns, we can move to step 3. Step 3 is just a review of what you've previously mapped. Right now we're just showing the 3 columns or the 3 structures that we had in our database. If we had more, say 100 structures or whatever, just know that during the review page, this is just a snapshot and it will only show you the top 9 or only 9 of your structures that you are looking to import into the HIVE database. After you review this and see that everything is matching up the way we desire it, we'll click Next. At this point you'll get a message that's saying data is being imported right now, and send an email, and then we can move to our monitoring the data import process. Once we've initiated the data import process, we can monitor that process using the dashboard. To navigate to the dashboard, go to the left menu and select Dashboard. Once initiated, the data import process is a background process that will run until all structures and inspection data properly staged is imported into the HIVE database. The dashboard provides us a way to monitor that process. The dashboard consists of a view of a page with 4 tabs. The first tab is Running. The Running tab will show any processes that are in progress, and as well as when they will start and the progress of that process. Now we imported only 3 structures, so this process will take very little time to complete. Therefore, it's not showing here on the running. If we select the waiting tab will show any processes that are in queue to begin once the server has the capacity to start that process. The Finish with Success tab shows all processes of recent that have been completed successfully. As you can see, we most recently did a data import, and we imported 3 structures with a structure count of 3, as well as inspection. We had 3 successful inspections. All of that is shown on the inspection, or excuse me, on the Finish with Success tab. Finally, the Finish with Error tab shows any processes that were initiated recently and had errors with it. As you can see, we have no processes that had errors associated with them. Once we see that our process is complete via an email message or 100% progress, and we show that we have a finished process on our Finish tab here, we can select the map view, and we'll see that our 3 structures have been imported, and we'll now plot on the map. In conclusion, the Data Import Wizard is used to import external tabular data into the HIVE database and efficiently create multiple structures and associated inspection data and display the results of the import on a map. The import process can be thought of as 3 groups of steps: staging the data, initiating the import process, and monitoring the import process. Staging considerations include ensuring that the worksheet that contains the import data is either the first or the only worksheet in the workbook to be imported, and that the first row of the import data must contain titles for the data to be imported. The minimum structure information required for a successful import is a structure name, valid location data, and a structure type. If inspection data is to be imported, there must also be a date of inspection and structure status. Both structure type and structure status must match what is predefined for your organization in the HIVE database. Also, remember that any data in the import worksheet that is desired to be saved into the HIVE database must have an existing destination field in the HIVE database, and that the import data must be clean with no hidden rows, columns, or cells. Once the data is properly staged, the import process can be initiated and will run in the background until all properly staged data is imported, and this process can be monitored using the dashboard.